From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, Bassem Youssef, with Gina Grad on news, Bald Brian on sound effects, and writer Megan Fox drops by. And now, better, stronger, faster, we have the technology. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on. Mandate you get it on. Thanks for tuning in. The ratings went up last week, so we appreciate that. And thanks for telling a friend, right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
Handball, Brian. I know someone's been beating off in here.
Oh.
Gina's still offended by the Bionic Woman only lifting 25 pounds with a leg extension.
Not only could I hardly sleep last night, but I went full Rocky when he's training in like a farm and, chasing around chickens and Drago has all the... I was like putting phone books on my own shins to give an example.
You climbed a mountain in Russia.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on the couch and I go, grab a book, grab an encyclopedia. This is more than the chick from the Bionic Woman did to show us she was bionic. So I had to get the whole family involved.
And in that montage, Stallone lifted that old wooden cart with like three guys sitting in it. Like, what if if the producers of the Bionic Woman had shot that montage, he would have lifted a feather duster with both hands.
With somebody pulling up her elbow.
Oh, my God. I know. It's so weird that people think I'm insane. I do realize this. But I watch those things and I'm like, what business are you in? What is going on? What are we attempting to convey, and aren't we conveying the opposite of what we're attempting to convey?
Yeah, those opening sequences were meant to be like, here's all you need to know to enjoy this story.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, oh, she's a weakling?
Yes. All right, so we got that. I was talking to Stromer earlier today about goose and how much more I enjoy goose than duck. But I
thought you were going to say goose than Maverick. I didn't know what we were talking about.
I got the need for speed.
Yeah.
But that's what we do on our home improvement show. But
discuss the merits of goose and duck.
Of
your fowl.
Yeah.
I want to say this. A lot of people may be on the fence. Should we eat goose? Should we eat duck? I will make that decision very easy for you. Ducks are sweet, they're nice, and they don't really harm anybody. They're just trying to go north for the winter or south for the winter or whatever where they're going, and we shoot them out of the sky. Geese are possibly the meanest creatures on the planet. They are, if you're looking for something to eat, like, I wouldn't eat Phil because Phil's a sweetheart.
Right.
You wouldn't eat Phil. If you can take a personality and attach it to something, now look, I'm going to eat a cow. Cow's nice. I'll eat a goose. A goose is mean. But if you were to say to me, I really just want you to eat the mean animals, I think I would feel better about myself.
You're balancing the cosmic ledger.
Yeah. And
it's all dolphins and goose.
That's right.
And crows.
That's right.
Right. So now I pulled up. I said, all you have to do is Google in geese attacking kids, and it'll be 7,000 hours of YouTube videos of geese attacking kids. Oftentimes, they're just trying to feed the goose.
Right. Befriend
the goose. They'll have none of it because of the. As far as what is laying in wait for you by the side of the lake or the pond, an alligator's much nicer than a goose. I mean, because alligators.
We look at the animals like that are ferocious as mean. They're not mean. They're just they're
hungry.
Out of
they're
instinct.
killers, but they're docile for the most part until they're not. Like, I would argue that if your 4-year-old walked up to the edge of the pond and there was a gator in there, there'd be a very slim chance that the gator would come out and attack your kid. But there's 110% chance that if there's a goose, they would try to eat your kid. And I'll show you just a little footage of this, but I think it makes my point.
That's a baby. Oh,
It's
no.
a baby, and he's trying to feed the goose, and the goose just bit the baby's hand. The baby was trying to feed the goose. Here is a goose violently raping a 9-year-old boy who's on his stomach and has literally pinned the kid to his stomach and is violently. And there's no other way to describe this other than violent rape. And now the goose is going after the world's cutest animal, which is a St. Bernard puppy.
Jesus. And giving it to the kid. Like, you want some?
Yeah, all right. So the kid
Goose is fucking John Wick. He just took on 2 larger creatures.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, all right. The goose is not your friend, is basically what I'm saying. They drop, and they do a move, too. They do the move that Thomas the Hitman Hearns did to Roberto Duran, which is they go low. They go low with the leg extension and then pow up to the kisser.
Oh, wow.
Right to the kisser. They go down.
What's the way preening?
They go down low. There's another goose chasing a kid in snow. They're the meanest. Look, everybody who may feel just a slight bit of guilt eating a goose, do not. They're the world's meanest creatures, and they're coming for your kids.
You're right. I will add to that by saying, I don't know if it's swan or geese. I think it's geese that hover around the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. But you take your mom on a nice walking tour and you get too close to, Cecil B. DeMille's crypt and they will chase your ass. I tripped. It was like a horror movie with them running after me.
Yeah. So I don't know. You can only tie them in the mean
That's right.
department. Not
That's right.
only are they aggressive, but they prey on our children. Nancy Grace.
I have been trying to tell people this for years, Adam, and thank the good Lord above that somebody is finally bringing this up. The geese have come for your children. People ignore it. People turn a blind eye, and they don't hear the honking until it's too late.
Yeah, I was down at Whittier Narrows out here, and when my kids were younger, and I just kind of dropped them off, I went back to the car to smoke a cigarette, and...
I'm sorry. What did you just say? You left your 2 babies alone while you go and fill your lungs with the devil's smoke?
I thought they'd have a good time, with the lake and the birds and everything.
The geese are going to tear him limb to limb. What's wrong with you?
I didn't know it at the time, Nancy. I found out the hard way.
They never do, and that's when they end up on my show, and everybody says, "Oh, I didn't know at the time." Wah. That's why your kids are dead.
Well, I think it's part of the problem. Sorry, Nancy, but you got to find a mirror. It's the media. Mother Goose and the friendly goose and the goose that laid the golden egg. It's all sunshine and puppy dogs when it comes to geese. The media lulls the people who write the children's books lull the kids into a false sense of security. But they don't do that with alligators. Alligators are mean.
Are you quiet? Are you finished?
There's no Disney film with a friendly alligator.
That's true, but Adam Carolla, don't you bring Mother Goose into this. Don't you bring that sainted woman who takes the children and holds them to her feathery breast. Don't you get her involved because she is beloved and she is on the right side of history. It's the geese that you left your children alone with to fend for themselves while you smoke them if you got them. Don't put this on Mother Goose.
Oh, that's right. Jimmy wrote a kid's book called The Serious Goose.
That's Tessa's favorite book.
It's also the kid here's favorite book.
She
We
loves
read it every night. I could recite it to you. I'm sure Brian could too.
Well, we try, and I'm sorry to say my friend Jimmy's, at least Jimmy has given a proper depiction of a goose.
Yeah. The whole point of this goose is you cannot make her laugh. She's a serious, mean goose.
Right, which is, again, a very apt description of a goose. But
this is a science text.
Jimmy's swimming upstream here because so many geese have been sainted
You're
In
right.
the eyes of publishing children's
The
books,
golden
You're right.
goose.
they just lull the kids into this false sense of security, like, hey, that goose, that's your friend. That's your
No.
buddy. You sit home and you read, oh, there it is, Jimmy
There it
Kimmel
is.
and the serious book that so says Brian has it on hand.
Indeed.
And then they go to the side, they go to the edge of the pond, and they're violently attacked, and in some cases raped, as we saw
Raped.
by the angry goose. So again, but the good news is they're delicious.
They're succulent.
They're succulent.
I'm going to blow your mind. In all of my highfalutin lifestyle, I don't think I've ever had goose. I had foie gras a couple of times. It's neither here nor there. But it could have been from a duck. That's made from duck or goose. So
I thought it was
know
just
that-
goose.
I don't know that I've had goose.
Now, if you just had if they sliced up the breast and you had a bite of the duck and a bite of the goose just on taste alone, Adam, who do you like better?
Well, maybe I'm just basing it on hanging out for Thanksgiving with the Pinskys, but Drew's wife whipped up an amazing goose, and it was just better than any turkey I've ever had. So
Where does one even get a goose?
Chinese market.
Dr. Drew and his wife, she explained to me that you basically go to the Whole Foods and they dress one up for you. I mean,
They have exotic meats.
yeah, you order it up and you get it. The Hungarians have it right with their treatment of geese because my grandfather, one of his greatest laments, going from Budapest to North Hollywood, was not being able to get his hands on any stuffed goose liver.
Oh,
It is
That's foie gras.
that's
it's out.
specific.
Well, foie gras, I guess you can get, which is goose liver.
In California, now Chris has looked this up. I think there was a story like a year ago that they outlawed it, or you couldn't get
Yes.
it anymore,
Right,
or
but
something.
you're saying they actually stuff the goose liver, stuffed goose liver.
No,
You're talking about a stuffed goose?
I'm talking
liver?
about they force feed the goose,
Oh, right.
and they literally, like, somebody's job is to take like breadcrumbs and ram it down the goose's throat. Now, I would argue they should give that job to one of the kids who've been violently attacked by the geese,
Revenge.
because there's no love
payback.
lost there.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Vengeance.
Yeah, you pull just some guy off of Craigslist, he's going to have mixed feelings about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But one of the kids that was violently attacked by the riverside, those guys would do it with glee.
Right.
So they stuff the goose, essentially. They force feed the goose to some point where the goose's liver gets so fat
Explodes.
from being force fed, and then they kill the goose and they take its liver and then you spread it on a saltine. So
all worth it.
That, I think, was the problem with the California and the goose
Right.
liver.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you can just take a healthy goose liver and spread it on a cracker, but it's probably not nearly as delectable.
Right. So this has been a 7-year-long battle. And as of July of last year, California said that as long as the product comes from an out-of-state seller and is transported by a third party, then it's okay.
Oh, yeah, it's just good science.
So we'll just bring it in from a neighboring state.
Yeah.
We'll just have some dude we know in Nevada with a van who can bring us stuffed geese liver, and we'll do it that way.
There you go.
Can you just take regular goose liver and eat it, or is it got to be the stuffed goose liver? And they probably do it
Fatty.
some better way now. But
Yeah.
It's like veal, I guess, right? It's got to be tender.
yeah,
Fatty.
my grandfather, his face with delight and a combination of lament and delight would be like, oh, the goose liver, the stuffed goose liver, oh, so good. And of course, they'd put it on in Hungary, they'd probably put it on a world-class piece of bread, and they just
Pumpernickel.
spread it on there. And the poor guy would have to head down to the Lucky's Market, now John's, I guess, and just go down the aisle that had the Arm& Hammer liverwurst spread, the weird canned 70s thing.
The potted meat.
Weird potted meat that was made of God knows what part and how much real goose liver, whatever was in there. And he just said, "Feh," to that. But the great Laszlo Gorok definitely wanted some stuffed goose liver. All right. So Eat geese with impunity is what I'm saying to people. 'Cause look, let's face it. The goose you eat tonight could have very well been a goose that raped a 4-year-old by the side of the river earlier that day.
Or is about to.
Or
Has it on his mind.
worse yet,
Yeah.
about to. That's right. Nancy Grace,
Yes.
how do you feel about these 4-year-olds being raped by geese?
I am sick to my stomach. I'm going to pray on it later because we have to do, I don't even think a 3-part special will do this. I think we need to go all week long and call out the goose name by name, goose by goose, so this doesn't happen in your town because everybody thinks, oh, not my town. My neighborhood's quiet. My neighborhood's safe. Nobody is safe from the goose.
Very well put. All right, on our theme, our food theme, I went over to the shop where we make all the documentaries, and there was a big donut box sitting out, and I took a picture of the contents because, and then I demanded to know who purchased these donuts.
How have we not learned our lesson?
Yes.
Oh
now,
my, those are Homer Simpson
Assortment.
donuts.
the thing about the donuts is, first, okay, can I just say this? Multicolored Jimmies never added anything to anything ever in the taste department. They are simply sugar mixed with red, pink, green, and orange dye number 17. There is no flavor enhancement from the Jimmies or the sprinkles.
Eyes
they're like-
closed, you would not be able to tell them apart.
No, they're little sugary, chalky pellets.
Yes, although it would kind of ruin your experience. Like, you'd be better off just taking a glazed donut and capsizing it in some kitty litter and enjoying it that way. They do not add anything. But I also argue the only angle that would work is if you have a bunch of special needs kids who would be delighted. Or maybe, I'll take my 2 subjects. Maybe your child was just violently raped by a goose and is in need of some comfort food. You know what I mean? And
Anything to put a smile on their face.
Therapy sprinkles.
Yeah.
Right. So I took a picture and I saw the 3 pink and white Jimmy colored 4th of July festive donuts, and along with 3 or 4 other donuts that were beside it. And then I went back about an hour later and I took a second picture. And now you will
Expected.
Now listen, everybody. The donuts, the sprinkled Jimmy ones remain untouched. The other ones they're getting to. They'll eventually eat every donut before they get to the Jimmy ones, and they will eat those eventually. And,
When they have to.
And this is my thing. This is like the everything bagel or the blueberry bagel. Understand that people are pigs. People also have no self-esteem and no dignity, and people are cheap. So, and they're ravenous. So they will get to the bad donuts eventually, but that does not mean the next time you go on a donut run, you should include the donuts nobody wanted.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
To conduct the survey 60% of the way through.
We will do with the donut the same as we do with the C's candy box, which is, we'll get to the stuff we took a bite of and threw back eventually. But that'll be later when we're drunk.
When we're desperate.
Drunk, desperate, and have and we have consumed all the stuff we want. So
Yes.
The C's version of this is the chocolates that are that wrap the cherry or
Yes,
the
yes, the
orange.
cordials.
Oh,
Anything fruit flavor with chocolate, the fruity goo, you're
they'll
absolutely
be gone by the end out of desperation, but this is not
Yes.
the first to go. In fact, usually the last to linger.
all right, so keep the Jimmies out of the donut box, people. For the adults.
right.
I suppose I could look the other way on chocolate Jimmies, but now you're just gilding the lily because it's already a chocolate donut.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not necessary. I also feel in terms of gilding the donut, I don't appreciate an icing on a glazed. I don't think it's necessary. I think it makes the glazed worse.
I'm with you as well. And here's another gilding the lily. Had a piece of like double chocolate German chocolate cake the other day. It's got the chocolate cake with the chocolate frosting, and it's all good. was horribly annoyed by the chocolate mini morsel sprinkles that were put onto the frosting. Because here's the thing. First off, according to the logic of the person that made the double chocolate cake, I should shove an enema nozzle up my ass, and you should pump warm fudge into it while I consume the cake. Because in your world, there's never enough chocolate. In my world, you have chocolate cake with tons of chocolate frosting, and now there's a texture issue. I'm biting into it, and I'm feeling these hard, pebbly crunches that are basically spot welded to the frosting, because once they're thrown on there, there's no removing them. Is that adding to my chocolate experience, is what I'm saying?
I mean, you can't help but notice it, especially for the texture, but I don't think it's improving it.
But don't you, when you bite into that piece of cake, do you want that crunchy nugget that's in there? I feel like it's competing with the part of the reason cake is good is a kind of consistent and smooth texture.
Yeah.
You know, getting the right amount of frosting with the right amount of cake on there. And they it was P.F. Chang's that did it. I normally like them, but they went nuts on the German chocolate, and they put the sprinkles on there.
I'm gonna add to your point when you talked about who really wants sprinkles. Little kids who've suffered a trauma of some kind, because adults
Goose raping.
Right. Anyone else would say fat to that. So for Valentine's Day, the little one begged to make a cake. And by the way, no one's touched it, but this is what he wanted on it. I took him to the store and I said he could do anything he wanted. It was Valentine's Day. He could make any cake he wanted. Chocolate cake, which I disagree with anyway, with white icing, which is a double offense to me. I do not like chocolate cake with white icing. Plus 2 different bottles of different kinds of sprinkles, some pastel, some primary color, plus a fudge icing that comes in the bag so you can make designs, plus crumbled up in the cake and on top of the cake, candy bars. Nobody has touched this cake, but he thought it was really fun to make it.
Yeah, restraint isn't the arena of the 4-year-old.
And nobody wants it.
Yeah, I think you get diabetes just by looking at that
agree.
monstrosity. Way too much 3/4 of the way there in the cake department at the store, where you buy like the pre-done dough and the pre-done sprinkles and the pre-canned frosting. My argument is, are you going to make a cake with your child or not? Because
or aren't you?
My whole thing is like, just keep walking another 30 feet. You'll hit the deli counter, the bakery counter in the back, and just fucking buy one. Because let's just admit what we're doing here.
I'm happy to admit it, because unlike Christy, I cannot bake. I am a horrible baker. Even the cookies that we made, that you gave us all the Dolly Parton flour and stuff.
That's right.
They were horrible. I do not bake. I'm a terrible baker. So this was like Betty Crocker, just add water, child fun. But you're absolutely right. I cannot bake. I'm terrible at it.
Two things about that. One, the only thing worse, Adam, is the cookie dough that comes in a roll. Snip it open
the
and
cheese
cut
log.
it. That's ridiculous. That is absurd. Secondly, I insulted Christy before we went to Big Bear. I said, "Do you want me to get some cake mix and you guys can make brownies or something?" She looks at me and goes, "I don't use cake mix." I'm sorry. I should have.
How dare
known.
you?
I'm so sorry.
That was an attack.
It
really was.
All right. We have, we're going to talk to Megan Fox, not that Megan Fox. She's an award-winning journalist and author and a political commentator. Mike, I guess, read an article on, she wrote a column on This Is Why You Never Apologize to the Woke Police. So she wrote a cancel culture piece. I haven't read it.
Was this her resignation letter? Is she allowed to go back to her job after this?
Mike and I have been talking a lot about crazy cancel culture lately. And so she wrote this very great column that spoke to Mike. So Mike booked her. But I thought before we brought her on, we'd hear some of the column.
Yeah, so it initially starts off with her talking about how much she loves The Bachelor, and she's in a Bachelor Facebook group. And she posted a screenshot of one of the posts that someone put in the group. And it reads, I want this post to be for POCs to share their opinions. If you're white, please do not comment. Just watch. We do not need your opinions. Thanks. And then she asks, how do you feel about Rachel's apology? And this the same people calling this post racist are the same people who will not allow colleges to have serenity rooms for blacks and other POCs even though everything revolves around them. She goes on and on. So Megan starts it off saying, "Is
POCs
this
of
people of color?" Yeah.
color.
So
Yeah.
is this racist on its own? And then it finishes off. She tells a story about Chris Harrison's apology, and then Dawson has the closing.
Well, it is kind of it's interesting. So I've always kind of said, look out. One of my arguments that no one ever likes about how racism isn't a big problem in this country is us inventing racism in terms of hoaxes you've seen, but also this is during the season of The Bachelor where we have a black bachelor, and one of the leading contestants, maybe the one who won it, is the one who's vying for the love of the black man. She's the one who's been called a racist. So really try to figure that math out in a racist society. If she, in fact, and I think she's one of the front runners, at least as I've heard it, maybe, I mean, they have a winner. I don't know if they've divulged it, but she's considered a front runner. This young white lady is vying for the affection of the black bachelor. So I would argue sort of mathematically, how big a racist could she in fact be if this is what she's trying, if she's trying to land the black man? But we have decided to call her a racist anyway. Math would suggest that she's probably not, considering she's on a show trying to land a black man. But
what is the racist thing she's accused of?
She went to the
like a plantation
party. She went to the antebellum, sorority, whatever party. She did that thing that they go where everyone's dressing up like Scarlett O'Hara, and we're all going to go have that as a theme to the party. And there's going to be a lot of, as I was saying to Mike, these parties, I don't think they've taken a year off since they were the actual party in 1865.
Not a novelty,
yeah. The Southern Belles.
It's slowly transitioned to novelty.
Well, if you think about it,
you're right. I agree.
It used to just be a party. Now it's a themed party.
Yes, right.
So, like the swinging 70s parties, they took 25 years off. And then it became ironic, and people started throwing swinging 70s parties again. But swinging 70s parties ended in 1981, and then they resurfaced again in 05 or whatever.
Right.
The antebellum stuff, that used to just be a Deb party with Southern gals wearing the Southern gowns, and it probably, with sororities throughout the country, probably never took a year off.
I was going to say sorority parties and fraternity parties are ripe ground for people who are looking for, they attended this kind of party. Like there were tons of pimps and hoes parties from the 90s. Like anyone who attended one of those in the 90s is game to be, it's distasteful and it's not, classy, but it's obviously something you would do today.
The toga party probably had the longest gap between actual toga parties.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then ironic toga parties, which showed up after Animal House in 1977.
Right.
But,
and I can't think of anything wrong with a toga party, or am I just not thinking hard enough?
Oh, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
The Roman dead slaves.
Yeah, we'll get there. But I'm I'm here to say that there are literally millions of women who have been photographed in their junior year at Florida State wearing the gown, the Scarlett O'Hara gown at a party.
Skirt.
Right. So this is going to be problematic for everyone who's trying to enter the media or become the next Bachelor or even corporate America. I mean, they're out there. They're all out there. And Chris Harrison, poor guy, my favorite part's the apology where he had to explain. The part about the apology I love is, of course, first things first. He doesn't mean the apology because he didn't say anything that required an apology. He was basically saying, hey, we don't have to cancel everybody. And now he got canceled. Now they're calling for his permanent cancellation from The Bachelor. Many of the alumni want him gone for good for defending this person, basically saying, why don't we have a little grace here? But he may be gone permanently, and we're going to see a lot more of this coming. So we'll talk to Megan about it. But yes,
you know what we don't care about anymore, which I thought would never go out of style: a redemption story.
Well,
we don't agree.
No.
We don't believe in them anymore.
My favorite part about the apology, which is that kid wishing you out in the cornfield moment, is it's no longer good enough that you apologize. You have to then explain that you're going to educate yourself. And that's the part that feels very scary to me. Like, we are going to educate you. It sounds very... Many of the regimes we don't like throughout history had a way of re-educating people who stepped out of line. That's the sort of Orwellian part. Like, I'm going to educate. You can find that. You can find his apology, Chris. We can laugh at it. But it's in there. Oh, go ahead, Dawson.
In the article headlined, "This is why you never, ever apologize to the woke police," Megan Fox writes, "Chris Harrison's apology is the dumbest apology I've ever seen."
Oh, good.
Quote, "By excusing historical racism, I defended it. I invoked the woke police, which is unacceptable. I am ashamed over how uninformed I was. I was so wrong," he wrote in a long-winded apology that sounded like it was written at gunpoint. "There's nothing racist about a party at which college kids get drunk in ball gowns. And if that's racist, dressing up in clothing that was popular during the time of slavery, then cancel Bridgerton, too. Shonda Rhimes has a hit on her hands with a show that paints the Regency period in England as utopia. Not only that, but actors of all races are using the time period in fashion to fantasize about a time that was horrific for poor people and minorities. But no one is canceling Rhimes. Only white people get canceled for enjoying the fashions of past eras. It's hard to even type this stupidity anymore. These are your new overlords. These are the people who set the rules now. None of this is about equality, but about revenge for past wrongs that no one living today had anything to do with. That won't matter when they come for you. I bet Harrison voted for Biden too. Enjoy the new era. It's going to be hilarious. And by the way, if you want me to stop using the phrase woke police, you will literally have to put me in prison and tape my mouth shut or shoot me. At this rate, that outcome is looking more and more likely every day."
You go, girl. Wow. Yeah, there's no apologizing, because the thing about apologies is, A, you have to mean them, and we all know nobody means it. But B, you have to assume that the person is offended and wants the apology. So if your wife wants you to apologize, well, then you can apologize to your wife.
For suggesting she uses powdered cake mix.
That's right. But, Brian, good example. If she just wanted you out of the house and canceled, well, then I don't know if the apology is going to work. Because that's not really what she wants. I mean, you can say to Chrissy, "Sorry about the snafu with the Duncan Hines. I apologize." And if, in fact, that's what she's truly upset about, then the apology will work. But what if she wanted you to just hit the streets? What if she just... Right. What if she just wanted you canceled?
It would go in perpetuity. They'd be like, I don't think you understand how that hurt me.
Right.
It's like, well, I apologize.
Not good enough.
Not good enough.
Right. All right. And I got to find someone else who said something about cake mix and go after them. Somebody tweeted about cake mix, and I find it problematic. Yes, Gina.
I want to divulge something that every time we have this conversation, it rolls around in my head, and I thought, leave it alone. You know what? No, because I don't know if kids are still doing it, but and I love the way they've rebranded it. But I think about it every time we talk about this. There's a makeup product that is for stage makeup called Texas Dirt. That is what it's called. Now, I'm looking it up right now because it's in the special effects department. That is not what Texas Dirt is used for or was used for when I was in high school, community theater. Everybody, that's part of the kit that you had to have. Because if you were, in Kansas and you were cast in The King and I, or West Side Story and you were a shark and not a jet, well, guess what? The teacher ordered you Texas Dirt, because it's a brown powder.
Oh, to
because
color your skin?
Yeah, because to them you would look inappropriate if you weren't, doing serving the script by looking like what the character's supposed to look like. And that was just normal. You want to look like what you're supposed to look like in the role you were cast in. I can't imagine that this is still something that's used in school, but if you didn't have it in your kit, you were in trouble. It was a part of your kit that you were demanded to have. Wow. And I wonder how that works now.
Gina?
Yes.
Are there photographs of you in dirt face?
I mean, I was a shark. I wasn't a jet. I was tubbed him in The King and I.
Problematic.
I'm sure I could find him.
Gina, you were the swarthiest person in Kansas by 100 miles.
Oh, I know.
That's not saying much.
But that's the thing. I mean, you're 12, you're 10, you're 13, you're 5, and this is being smeared all over you by a makeup person. And I can't imagine that that's happening anymore. But that's what it's called, and that's what they sell.
In the past, I would defend you, but now I'm worried for my job. So you're on your own, baby. You and your problematic dirt face. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with the ballsy Megan Fox right after this.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Hey, Adam, I was wondering, I'm sitting here thinking the way the cancel culture is taking all these words away now, retarded, can't say this, can't say that. How long until you can't say handicap in golf anymore? When is that word going to hurt somebody? Get it on.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
And let's not forget, when you're framing a low pony wall, the miniature studs in there are referred to as cripples. So it's a very common terminology. If you're framing a parapet on a roof, like a 3-foot high wall or something,
this is all getting cut out.
You'd definitely be cutting cripples. An ice cream shop just dropped using the word Jimmy's.
Yeah, so you've been calling sprinkles Jimmy's, which is an East Coast thing and a Boston thing, and there's like a lot of rumors. It's all unconfirmed that it's like Jim Crow laws or like the chocolate sprinkles. So there's actually an ice cream shop in Salem that said, we don't want to take any chances. We're just calling them sprinkles. Like we're done.
Wow.
And the chocolate donuts could be argued as cultural appropriation too. They should just stick with the white cake. Megan Fox, award-winning journalist, author, political commentator, has joined us. Good to see you, Megan. Oh, I think Megan.
Thanks for having me here, Adam.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so
thanks for having me.
We just read your article, and this is something I've been yapping about for a long time as well. This crazy cancel culture. Where do you think this whole thing is heading? I mean, you've been studying it for a while. It seems to be gaining momentum and speed, but. The question I would have for you is, I think we know what direction it's heading, but are we getting to a saturation point where large groups of Americans will finally start pushing back?
Well, I hope so. I mean, the article you're talking about is referencing Chris Harrison having to step aside from The Bachelor. Now everyone loves Chris Harrison. He might be the most beloved person on television. So that this happened to him is maybe one of those turning points. And I think I referenced in my article the Facebook page that I'm a part of. I'm hanging my head in shame here that I'm a part of the Bachelor fan club, but I am. And on Facebook, I'm watching these people talk about this. And after this happened, it went from, them tolerating this post about how no white people are allowed to speak on this post on this Facebook page to what the heck is happening here? And so I think it kind of has shifted, at least in public opinion on the Facebook fan groups. Everyone seems to be very upset about Chris Harrison having to step aside over this silly, ridiculous thing. I don't mean there is such a thing as systemic racism in this country. And people like Rachel Lindsay who are going after Chris Harrison, probably out of a sense of wanting to self-elevate herself. put herself up on a pedestal and make a name for herself. Instead of looking at what's really happening to Black and brown children in this country, there is systemic racism. And if you want to find it, just look to the teachers' unions, because they're keeping Black and brown children out of school right now. And they've been doing so since March. And so if you want to do something good for people of color, maybe focus on that instead of Chris Harrison, who hasn't done a darn thing to anybody.
Yeah, it's always, these movements always go this direction. Obviously, there are problems, there's real things, there's energy that could be put in a direction, but they never put it in that direction. They put it in directions that don't take as much work, aren't nearly as complicated, and they get a lot of that boys or that girls on social media. So, yes, of course, there's problems. Look, I would say the same thing about the Women's March. It's like there are problems, not so much in this country, but there's a lot of problems worldwide with the way women are being treated. But nary a peep about that. We're just talk about what's going on in this country when there's some severe problems. Yeah, I agree.
It's all fabricated. This stuff on The Bachelor about racism on The Bachelor, it's a fabrication. None of it exists. I mean, it's not even real. We're talking about a girl who went to a party in 2018 and dressed up in a Southern ball gown. Well, if we're going to cancel antebellum parties and costume parties, which, by the way, are not segregated, anyone can go, right? This is a fraternity party. Whoever's invited can go. It's not based on if we're going to do, I'm talking about Shonda Rhimes' show that's on Netflix. Shonda Rhimes has a hit show on her hands. It's called Bridgerton. It is set in the Regency, England, right? And she has this cast of diverse characters, and they've suspended reality where all of these minority characters are very, very wealthy in Regency, England, and they're wearing these incredible costumes. The thing is a costume drama, right? That's what it is. And it's great. It's terrific TV. But if we're going to cancel everybody's parties and costume parties around the country and you're not allowed to go to one, well, then cancel that show too, because it's fantasizing about a time that was really terrible for poor and minority people.
Here,
you can't have it both ways.
Well, I have a theory about this, and people may think it's a theory, but I think the math pencils out, which is the more progressive we get in terms of race and racism, the fact that we have a Black bachelor. So here's the zeitgeist. Here's the general. So you can take everything and have it go from macro, and you just bring it to micro, and you get your answer, right? So if you were building a case, and the case is we live in a racist nation, and then someone says, but we have a Black bachelor. I mean, that's good, right? I mean, how can you call the Bachelor racist? We have a Black bachelor this season. Now you have to work overtime to create the scenario. And I'll say micro. What I'll say is anyone who's been in a bad relationship where you're saying, God, that person's a bad person, or I hate my husband or my wife or whatever it is, they could bring home flowers and you could go, oh, orchids, not roses. You know what I mean? Because you have a theme, and the theme needs to be fed. And if you want to know why we're finding racism where racism doesn't exist, is because we've been bending over backwards trying to get rid of racism and show everybody, no, we have a Black president, and we have a Black bachelor, and we have half the people in Biden's cabinet are Black, and we're doing all this stuff. And so the people who have the theme, especially the race hustlers out there, they're now working overtime to find it in Chris Harrison. See, we wouldn't have...
They're doing it. They're doing it to elevate themselves, though. This is about Rachel Lindsay getting a job on The Bachelor, most likely. This is about Rachel Lindsay taking over Chris Harrison's position. This is always what SJWs do. They take over an industry and they elevate themselves to a position of authority in that industry. They did it in the board gaming industry just a couple weeks ago. I was just writing about this, maybe last week. Board games, of all things. There's an online community of people who enjoy playing board games. And in this community, there were some YouTubers called Ant Labs that did, videos showing playthroughs of popular board games. This interracial couple, total nerds for sure. They were interracial couple, had no politics whatsoever on this channel, but they have been canceled and pushed out. They had to cancel their YouTube channel because they've been assaulted for 3 years by SJWs who got offended that this woman gave tips for women who don't like to be sexually harassed at conventions. She had the nerve to give tips to women to avoid uncomfortable sexual situations. But because she didn't do it in the way that SJWs want you to do it, because she suggested that women might have some agency where their own bodies are concerned, like, oh, don't get drunk on a convention floor by yourself. That's probably not a good idea. Don't walk alone at night. Common sense ideas. These people drove her off the internet for that. So we're not talking about rational people. And we're also
Social justice warrior.
Oh, sorry. I'm not hip.
Social justice warrior.
Well, I think
sorry, I have nothing better to call them.
I think we have. I was funny. I've talked about this on this show, but I was talking about it to somebody over the weekend who was trying to had some social justice warrior come at him. I said, I've been around long enough to remember when all of this stuff came from the religious right. These were religious people. If you would say something to your radio on radio in 1995 and the program director would go, I got a bunch of letters, it was from religious nut jobs. Right. This is the new religion. So it's so funny. So if I said in 1995, if I said I got into trouble for something I said on a radio show, everyone in the room would go, religious nut job, some church when offended,
letter campaign,
whatever it is. If you just do the sort of a little experiment here, you did that in 2021. You said I talked on the radio and I got into trouble. Well, everyone would know it was the social justice warrior. So the social justice warriors who used to constantly attack, and rightfully so, the religious people that were trying to have their way with society have now become the religion of today. It's interesting that they completely are all atheists. That's the and probably more of them.
They're the new Puritans.
Hey,
how about the new Puritans?
How about we do this?
Very good.
I got a plan. You can tweet this out. Let's get Chris Harrison fired. And let's get a hashtag Ted Nugent, new Bachelor host. Let's see if we can start a campaign, a grassroots campaign. First off, he'd be fucking awesome as the Bachelor host. I mean, let's
tremendous.
He'd be tremendous. He'd be out there wearing his loincloth and his crossbow. He's the best talker in the world. He's
Instead
sober.
of a rose ceremony, there'd be a bow ceremony.
Fire that rose across the room.
100% bullshit.
That is the great Ted Nugent. Let's see if we can get that trending, Max Zapata. Let's see if we can replace Chris Harris, because he's had a long enough run. And I figure Chris has. And I figure Ted's been kind of on the sidelines for a while, and this might be... First things first, if you want to draw in some new audience outside of the demo, if you're the Bachelor, you're going to have the old fans. They're going to stick with it. They can't. It's heroin to them. But you'd get guys like me watching every week.
Curiosity factor, absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
I've never seen The Bachelor. I'd watch that. Motor City Madman.
I've never seen it either.
Yeah.
You're all much better people than I am.
We watch other crap.
No, it's. I have seen it before. It's like... Brian, The Bachelor is like Real Housewives of Orange County.
Now you're talking.
Where you walk into the room, your wife is laying down on the bed on a Sunday, and she's watching Real Housewives, and then you lay down and you go, what is this horse shit? And then you go, what a waste of time. And then you go, who are these nut jobs? And then at some point you go, the Countess is a bitch. And she is throwing Lainey under the bus. Under the bus.
What does she think she's doing?
What she thinks she's doing?
Who even thinks like that?
And the next thing you know, you're pacing next to the set. and you've watched 9 episodes. That's the way. I think that's the way The Bachelor works, right?
That is the way it works. And it's also, I always like it because I think it's a fun snapshot of our current dating culture. And I've been married for 20 years, so I'm completely out of it. And I find it entertaining and fun to watch, and sad to watch 20-year-olds, try to navigate through this process. It's so awkward and sad. And I find it addictive. I didn't watch this season, though, because when I heard they were going to have a Black Bachelor, I knew what this was going to be like. It was going to be woke police all over the place, and I didn't want that in my living room. I don't know who would. So I just decided not to watch, to take part in it. And sure enough, it's the one season that made Chris Harrison have to leave his job. And by the way, did you read his apology?
Oh yeah, we read his
thing.
We read his apology on the air.
Did you read it?
And we did.
I'll tell you why I feel sorry for the
This is the
Bachelor.
This is the thing that kills me. Oh, you did.
Sorry, Megan, you're breaking up. Our line is a little choppy. We'll see if we can maybe get on the phone with you or reboot it or something like that. I will say this in dialogue with Gina, which is, for me, now maybe this is just old dude guy talking here, but
it is.
In the Bachelor,
Maybe.
the part of me that bristles is like one chick is going to win this thing, and she is going to marry this guy, and either it's going to work or it's not going to work or whatever. But everyone else is going to be a runner-up or a second runner-up or whatever it is. And at some point, they're going to move on to a new dude. And maybe immediately, maybe with the delay, they're watching The Bachelor with the new beau. Yeah. And the beau's like, you blew a guy in a hot air balloon with a camera crew there?
Yep.
I knew him for 5 days. All right, it was love.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's my question about The Bachelor specifically, is how has the idea of The Bachelor maintained for 25 seasons? And I know there's a Bachelorette.
Is it 25?
And I know, yes, I just looked
Holy.
it up. There's
one black guy?
I was going to make that point earlier. But let's not think about The Bachelorette right now, because I know that came a little bit later. But how misogynistic and how backwards is it of us to go, there's one prize guy and all these women have to pull each other's hair out and turn on each other and act like the worst of themselves. What, to get a man? That doesn't seem like Frozen, for God's sake. The Disney movie was a big deal because it was the first movie in how long that wasn't about the love between, two characters that fall in love. It's the love between two sisters who love each other and raise each other up. So I can't believe that the premise of The Bachelor is still allowed.
Yeah. Well, it is problematic, as the woke
I just
people
can't
would
believe
say.
nobody thinks about just the idea of the game show.
Yeah. Sorry, Megan, do we get reconnected or rebooted?
I think I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you live in New York?
I do.
How much shit do you take for your opinions on these such matters?
So much shit. No, I'm out here in rural New York. I'm in the Rochester area, way out in the country. So you would think that the country people in New York would be a little different, but they really aren't. They're all very far to the left. It's very strange. I'm here because my husband's job is here. So when we can eventually move away to somewhere redder, we will, I'm sure, because it's really tough. It's very tough. I think people always expect me to talk politics at parties, and it's the last thing I ever do. Because, when you live this stuff, when you live and breathe it, nobody wants to do this when you turn the computer off at night.
Well, I will give the podcast, The Fringe with Megan Fox, a plug, and the column, This Is Why You Never, Ever Apologize to the Woke Police. And I basically look at apologizing to the woke police like I look at paying ransom to terrorists who abduct camera crews, which is you just get more abductions.
It's going to beget more.
You just get more. Like, I know it seems easy, and you love the guy, and you want to get him back, and you just want it to be over with, but it ends up getting more people abducted.
It's the puppy mill.
Right. That's right. It's the puppy mill. And And
You really can't do that. You can never apologize ever. If you get targeted by the woke mob, if you get targeted for any kind of cancellation, the best thing you can do is double down immediately on whatever it was you said. Double down. Say it again.
I agree. And much like the terrorists, in a weird way, not as it pertains to abducting camera crews, but just in general, I think they look at it as weak in their own weird way and kind of pathetic. I think it just makes you, they don't accept your apology. It just makes you pathetic.
No, they're not going to accept it.
It's blood in the water.
Right.
It's blood in the water. They start circling, and they might make you think that if you apologize, it'll all go away. But it won't. What they will do is plan their victory parade party, and they will hang your scalp on the wall, and they will celebrate your scalp. Chris Harrison will never recover from this because he apologized. He will never recover. Of course, he doesn't care. He's got millions of dollars. He'll be fine. I mean, he's got FU money, so eventually he'll figure it out. The people that I'm concerned about are people who like wounded war veteran Will Callaghan. He's a comic artist who was run out of his job because he said he didn't think it was transphobic for a heterosexual man, to not want to kiss a man who thinks he's a girl. This man,
like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
That's right.
That's right.
He was run out of his job.
Yes.
He can't feed his family. He's disabled. These are the kind of people I worry about, not the Chris Harrisons. And so many of them have been attacked by these people, and no one backs them up. No one says, well, don't be stupid. That was a stupid thing to make him think in the first place. Why do we care what people think? Why do we care?
I don't know. Look, there were the two things that were said that I don't think are being said anymore, but were uttered every 5 minutes when I was a kid. There were two phrases: sticks and stones. That was the first one. And this one, which I don't hear anymore. You'd start saying something on the schoolyard and some kid would tell you to shut up. And you go, it's a free country. It's a free country. I'll say what I want. That is a phrase I do not hear anymore.
You know what? The other one you don't hear? I'm rubber, you're glue.
That's right.
That's another good one.
Megan Fox, available, by the way, the podcast, The Fringe with Megan Fox, available on pjmedia.com. Thanks, Megan. I appreciate you fighting the good fight.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Adam.
Our pleasure. All right. Let's see. I got to hit Simply Safe here. Simply Safe. If you have 30 minutes, you never have to worry about home break-ins ever again. That's how quick it is to set up your security system from Simply Safe. So much to do, and you got to watch your shows on Netflix, and you got to watch The Bachelor and all that stuff. You don't want to spend a bunch of time setting up your system. Simply Safe. You go online, figure out how many doors, cameras, whatever it is you need, sensors, window sensors, peel and stick, batteries last up to 10 years. Done in about 30 minutes. You don't have to pay someone to install it. Just go to simplysafe.com/Adam. Choose the exact sensors you need, and you can also get help from one of their experts. It'll get to your house in about a week, and you set it up, and Bob's your uncle. So go to simplysafe.com/Adam today. You'll customize your system, and you get a free security camera. That's simplysafe.com/Adam. All right, Bassem Youssef is on. We'll talk to him right after this.
And now, a tip from the 1965 issue of Good Housekeeping: 120 ways to please a man.
When you're planning to buy a new appliance, make a point of talking it over. Not only is it his money and his house, but he may have some excellent suggestions to make.
Just one of 120 ways to please a man. Now back to the Adam Carolla Show.
His money in his house.
You heard it.
You better discuss it with him. Bassem Youssef is on again. He's a comedian. He's a writer. He's a producer. He's a doctor. He's a surgeon. He's a media critic and a TV host, and has a children's book out, The Magical Reality of Nadia. We've been kind of on a little bit of a theme of children's books today, so this is good timing. It's available now on Amazon. Good to see you again.
Nice to be back. I love this podcast, but now we have to do it remotely. Everything is remote. Are you guys Zoom fatigued yet?
Yeah.
Getting there.
Yeah, I haven't really changed up my schedule too much. I come in every day, and I've been traveling, and I basically have done everything that you're not supposed to do in COVID times. So it hasn't really affected me, but I am affected by my kids. It's like they're 14-year-old twins. They haven't been in school in a year. They're just kind of sleeping in, and the room's dark, and they're playing too many video games. There's a kind of malaise that happens when you just say, kind of do what you want. And it's kind of hard to police them because I'm gone most of the day. And it's just, it's taking its toll on the boy, really. My daughter's social and doing a lot more stuff, but the boy's really been hit by this thing.
Yeah, so I have like Nadia. She's almost 9. She's going to be 9 next month, right? So for 2 months, I was out of America. I was in Dubai, and I'll tell you what's going on in Dubai right now. Totally different planet when we're talking about pandemic. So I was traveling, and I was talking to Nadia, and I said, listen, you know what? Mommy needs all the help that she can get. You're going to be my little helper. Can you please, be nice. Don't put like too much burden on your mommy. She's because there's a lot of stress.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of like gets it like, what about my stress? What about my problems? I said like, what, Nadia? You're 8. What could be possibly the kind of stress you're going under? So she stands up and puts like both of her hands on her waist, like, you have no idea what does it mean to be in quarantine when you're being a child. It's like, oh my God. she has to be, because everything is remote for her too. So I was like, all right, yeah, we have to acknowledge your kind of stress, your kind of pressure too.
I find that by the time you tell your kid, would you be nice to your mom? It's too late. There's already a rich history of them being super shitty to their mom. And so let's talk about Dubai. You're in Dubai for 2 months?
Yeah, I was finishing like a show there about plant-based diet. And I got like kind of like extended. And the thing is, like, you're in Dubai and it's 2019. 2020 never happened. I mean, it did happen. They had like a lockdown or whatever, but they opened up everything again. And I think because Dubai is one of the most effective countries when it comes to vaccination and testing, and so it's kind of like they had this kind of like feeling of safety. Everybody is getting tested in the airport, but they had like a surge of cases. But it's like, it's fine. People will be living it. We're gonna give people vaccines, and hopefully it will be fine. And apparently it's working for them, I guess.
Well, let's talk about you're a surgeon or trained as a surgeon. I don't know when's the last time you performed surgery that didn't involve a zit?
That would be exactly 9 years before that, because the first year of me doing the show, I was still a doctor, and it was a little bit weird because as a heart surgeon, being in the morning rounds and people starting recognizing me from the YouTube's like, oh my God, aren't you the guy with the funny videos? It's like, yes, it's me. It's like, is he going to operate on me? It's like, and it was a kind of a little bit embarrassing. So I stopped.
You seem like a good person to talk to about this. I know you have very strong feelings about plant-based diets, but I'd like to expand it out to just general nutrition and as it pertains to COVID. I feel like we're missing an opportunity to talk about weight loss and talk about health and exercise and immune system supplements. So I don't know. Obviously, you'll have thoughts about that. I'm curious what your take is.
Yeah, well, I am a big believer that plant-based whole food diet is the best diet that you can be in on long terms. And I think it can boost your immunity and it can reduce your inflammation. It's a diet of exclusion more than anything else. I try to avoid as much as possible animal products, not just like meat and chicken, but also dairy. I think dairy is the most inflammatory food that you can put in your body, And I think you would be doing your body a disservice if you're eating that much animal product. Now, having said that, I'm not one of those vegan militants who come and kind of shame you to what you eat. I mean, I joke about it. I said, hey, I'm Arab and vegan, which makes me scary and annoying. But but the thing is, I am not that annoying. It's like I even do a follow-up joke. I say, like, that's why I don't do CrossFit, because that's already too many red flags, Arab and vegan. So, but like, I don't go and shame people. Oh, what are you doing to that? And I was like, no. So like, I've been eating meat 40 years of my life. So I understand where the people are coming from. It's delicious. It's very hard to give up. But I think it's much better for your health. And I tell people, hey, if you're eating your burgers, your steaks, and your fried chicken, and you feel great, you're happy, you're healthy, good for you. Who am I to tell you to do anything more different? But if you have a problem, if you come to me, it's like, I don't feel that good, or I have a certain health issue, I tell people, why don't you try different things? That's why I chose the name Plant B. It's a play on Plan B.
Right.
Like if you've tried everything else and you failed, why don't you try a different plan? Try plants. So, and I have to say, like, a lot of people have tried it. And even when they did the 21 days challenge and they go back to eating meat, they say, you know what? I don't eat meat as much. I think more about what I eat. So it's a kind of, it's something that can help people with their diseases, I guess.
Brian has a question, and I also want to preload you with supplements, zinc, what have you. You know, should we be getting into that? But go ahead, Brian.
Can we back up? Yeah, I have a question that's fascinating. I want to back up a second because you mentioned inflammatory, and I've heard this from a number of people, and I always want to know, what does that mean? And more importantly, how does it manifest itself? Like, how would I know if something is inflammatory? Well, what effect would it have on me, or and that kind of stuff?
So in so many ways. So first of all, people who eat a lot of dairy, they have bloating, and they have a lot of constipation, and they have a lot of irritable bowel syndrome issue. All of these are signs of inflammation. When you have an irregular bowel movement, when you have irregular sleep, when you have long recovery period after you work out, you know, pain in your joints, pain in your muscles, when you don't recover as fast, these are all inflammation, right? So I know that we throw the word inflammation around a lot, but it is true. So when you get sick a lot, because inflammation could manifest as something as a joint pain, a common cold, all the way to autoimmune disease. People with a lot of autoimmune disease, like, you know, have a lot of people with young age that have Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, all of these bowel diseases, these are all inflammation. This is your alimentary canal, your intestine screaming, saying, like, there's something wrong with me. Food allergies, all of that. These are all signs of inflammation.
I'm wondering if culturally it has any effect too, because I'm Jewish, come from, like, you know, Russian sort of peasant stock, and we are not known for our ability to tolerate lactose. So, you know, I avoid milk and dairy and stuff because I'm very lactose intolerant. I have friends who are Asian who are, you know, the same way, because it wasn't part of their diet growing up, or in their heritage. And I'm wondering, are there cultures that you think can get away with it and some that can't, or this is overall?
You are not alone. 65% of the human population, not the Jewish population, not the Asian population, 65% of the human population have lactose intolerance. That is 7 out of 10 people in the world. So if you think about it, if 7 out of 10 people have a problem with dairy, how is dairy a health food as promoted, you know? And that's why in the last couple of years, two of the biggest dairy companies in America and in Canada have announced bankruptcy, because people are starting to understand that dairy is not that milk mustache with Superman telling you you've got milk. That is all marketing. So, and I understand that, you know, a lot of people are getting too diehard for keto diet or for paleo diet. And I tell those people, if you're coming from the land of junk food, absolutely, keto and paleo diet is much better. But on the long run, I think it actually can harm you on the long term, especially keto. And there's not a single person who went into keto diet and so, like, they gained the weight again, or they had problem with their bowel movements. And it is not healthy to be on a keto diet on that much fat in your diet for a very long term. So maybe in the short term you want to lose weight, but you have to be careful because you're starving your body from carbs. Telling people yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious. My son brought up last night when we were eating dinner, chicken, sorry, But he said, what about GMOs? I hear about GMOs. Are they bad?
Well,
and I was like, I'm sure they're bad, but I don't really know that much about the science of it.
Well, here's the thing. There's two ideas about GMOs. First of all, they said that all of our food is genetically modified. The bananas that we eat.
In some way, yeah.
Well, in some way, they were. But the problem is, like, how much of genetic modification has been there? I mean, the bananas that we eat are, like, I mean, if I'm sure that you've read that, the 16th century when they were growing fruits, the bananas didn't look as, they were more septic. The septas inside, and they didn't have this like meat of the banana.
No, and they were circular.
And they were circular.
Yeah.
It's different. So we have genetically modified our watermelons and our bananas. I don't think that all of GMOs are bad. I don't think that all of them are bad. I think but I think there are certain food that we should get as organic. And if you make an internet search, there is like the clean 15 and the dirty dozen. The dirty dozen, you have to eat them as organic. But the clean 15, you can eat them whether or not they're organic or not.
What I don't want to go through all of them, but I'm curious what some of those items on the clean 15 are.
Things with thick rinds.
Yeah, or well, go ahead. Yeah, I have a list here.
Sorry?
Things with thick rinds, you're saying?
Yes.
What's included in the clean 15?
Yes, we can look it up right now.
Yeah, I have the dirty dozen, and it makes sense. You do hear about these.
Leafy.
Yeah, I'll give you the dirty dozen. Strawberries, which you hear about a lot. Spinach, kale, nectarines, apples, grapes, peaches, and cherries are what come up for dirty dozen.
That's the GMO stuff?
Yeah, you want to eat that organically, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that you want organic.
And then there's the clean 15, where it doesn't really matter if you eat it more or not. But I think at the end of the day, listen, it's not a cult. When people say, "Oh my God, I ate chicken yesterday," it's like, it's fine. It's not a cult. Nobody's going to punish you. Nobody's going to put you in vegan prison. We are not. I think that's the problem with a lot of like the militant vegan movements, is that I think we have been indoctrinated for so long with how we eat. And this is the way we eat. And I think the way to cross over for people is to be kind of like more lenient and more understanding. And sometimes even when I'm traveling, I cheat sometimes. I don't eat like 100% vegan. And it's not the end of the world. It's what you do 90% of your life.
Let's talk about the children's book, The Magical Reality of Nadia.
Yes.
I normally announce I hate people who write children's books, but then I realized Jimmy Kimmel wrote a children's book, and now Bassem has written a children's book. So
and John Oliver wrote the children's book.
Oliver wrote a children's. So there's people I like who write children's books. Now, did you illustrate the children's book?
Not me. There's an
strike two.
Yeah, it's not. No. But that has a funny story. I was speaking to Scholastic on the phone. I said, like, who's going to be the illustrator? And then Nadia, my daughter, was watching Netflix. And then on the screen, she was watching The Last Kids on Earth. And it's like, oh, my God, I love the animation. Who's the guy doing the animation? It's like, oh, he's an Australian guy. His name is Douglas Holgate. It's like, can we get him? They send him the draft. And he's like, I love the book. I'm going to illustrate it. So I have to thank Nadia for that.
And now I don't want to, far be it for me to give any advice on parenting, because I'm a horrible dad. But I feel like your daughter, who's already, we'll just call her precocious, is going to be even more emboldened now with this book with her name on it.
That's me.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. She's already a star. But the thing is, like, she's such a critic. She comes like, Dad, I read the book and it's not very accurate. I don't speak like that. It's like, Nadia, it's not an autobiography. This is a fictionalized character. This is not your autobiography. I just took the name and kind of imagined you in the future 3-4 years from now. It's like, I don't collect bobbleheads. It's like, yes, it's in the book. That is not you, Nadia. So she's starting to realize that there are two different Nadias. Yes.
It's an unauthorized autobiography.
It's an unauthorized autobiography.
So are you able to go? I mean, you were in Dubai doing some work. Are you able to go out and, you have some dates here coming up. Have you been doing much stand-up? Have you been doing dates?
Yes. I just finished New Jersey, the Stress Factory in New Jersey. And I'm going this weekend to Houston, to Improv, where they're having the storm. And the week after, I'm going to Baltimore and then Ohio. So I'm being
Risk.
Yeah. Well, I already got the vaccine, so.
Oh, did you get it in Dubai?
Yeah, I got it in Dubai. They gave it to me. So.
And you got you got two because you were there long enough where you could get the second shot.
Yes. So hopefully I'm going to be immune, but I'm still wearing masks. So.
Where do you come down on supplements? Well, we're circling back to that.
Oh, okay. Supplements. I believe that you need B12 and a little bit of omega-3. And if you don't expose to sun, you need a little bit of vitamin D. That's like my go-to supplements.
Where are we on zinc?
There's a lot of food that are rich in zinc. I don't think that we need zinc that much.
Oh, okay. As long as you're eating.
It was just like, as long as you're eating, like, just eat the vegetables, eat the beans, and you'll have like all the zinc that you need.
Where are you now? What city do you reside in?
Los Angeles.
Oh, and
Los Angeles.
and so Nadia, is your daughter's 8 or 9?
She's gonna be 9 next month. Yeah.
Has she been at home for a year like my kids have?
Yeah. Like distant learning and the whole shebang.
Are you good? I think you're obviously you're scholarly because you're a former surgeon. Do you get up and supervise? Do you?
No,
good. Me neither.
No. But here's the thing about this children's book. I know that you said like they hate people who wrote children's book. The reason that I wrote the children's book is that I didn't really write it as a children's book. I actually wrote it in an adult book, and then Catherine Daly, which was like the amazing co-author, made it into a children's book. So I was thinking like, how can I have my experience? Someone who, because of his humor, was kind of penalized back in Egypt, and then I come here to America under the 4 years of lovely Trump, and me as an immigrant being here different. How can I translate that into a children's book? So I thought of one thing, which is we're all different, right? And this nation is basically built because of the differences that we have. Now, some people think that being different is bad, and some people, and I'm one of the people who think that being different is the source of the strength of this amazing nation. So I created the character, Nadia, being an Egyptian from Egyptian parents in an American school, and she is now being looked upon as being different. But now she falls into this magical pendant where you have an ancient Egyptian teacher who was locked in this pendant for 2,000 years, like the genie from Aladdin.
Yeah.
And then he comes out and he takes her into this magical dives into history. And through understanding her history, she understands how to deal with her differences here in America. So it is kind of like more of a journey of self-discovery and being proud of why you're different in this country. And people around her, whether they are white or brown or black, they understand that we all come from different places. So that's kind of like the theme of the book.
What you said that you were kind of penalized for your humor in your own country. Let's talk about that a little bit. How did that work?
Well, I had a show making fun of the government.
Right.
With the rise of the show, the Islamists came to power. So this was like the political satire show. It was the Jon Stewart version of the Middle East.
Right.
So under the Islamist, there was a warrant for my arrest. I was interrogated for 6 hours, and they were asking me to explain my jokes, which was terrible, because for 6 hours I had to explain to them joke by joke. And what's the worst about it is that when they're reading me back my jokes, they weren't that funny. So I went out and I kind of
delivery.
I fired half of my staff after that. So
that's got to be It's so brutal. Having to explain jokes is never good. It's never good when you're like sitting down and it's light outside and nobody's drunk. And
Adam, you mentioned the brutality of the air check yesterday.
Yeah.
How about this?
Yes.
I know.
level.
It was crazy, and they were like for 6 hours, just like, "What did you mean by this joke?" And I said, like, I meant nothing. So like, why did the people laugh? I was like, why don't you go ask them? It was like crazy, right? So yeah, and then like after the Islamists, they came the military, and then the military didn't like me that much because I'm an equal opportunity offender. I'll make fun of whoever in power, and I had my show canceled a couple of times, and then I had to flee. So I escaped from America, and I came here just in time as Donald Trump becoming president. So I said, like, screw my life.
Out of the frying pan.
I think I jinxed America. I brought in dictatorship with me.
I said when I was, I don't know why it makes me think you being sort of interrogated for your jokes. I got detained at McCarran Airport in Vegas a decade ago, and I got pulled out, sat in like this windowless room with a big wooden desk that had a big kind of hoop on it where they could chain you, they could like handcuff you to it or something. But anyway, the guy was an asshole, and he said to me, "What do you do for a living?" And I remember just thinking, well, I'm a comedian. But if I say to him I'm a comedian, he's going to go, "Oh, so you think it's funny to yell at a woman behind the counter at American Airlines? You think that's funny? Is this a joke?"
Tell me a joke, funny man.
I knew. That's all dumb guys have 3 or 4 responses. And if you tell them you're a comedian, you go, "You think it's funny to break
everything's a joke?"
Everything's a joke, right? So I was flummoxed, right? So he goes, "What do you do for a living?" And I go, I was trying to think of what I did for a living, and I waited too long.
You had the drug dealer response.
Yeah, I waited too long, and he goes, "You don't know what you do for a living?" And then I just yelled, "Not a comedian." And
anything is not funny.
Well, thankfully, I was a carpenter, so I can use that like you could use surgeon. Because if they ever drill down and ask you anything specific, you could technically answer the questions.
Well, I was pulled down. I had a show outside in Cleveland once, and I was driving back after my show, and this was like a couple of years back, and it was so dark, and I couldn't see anything. So it seems that I kind of like went through like a stop sign. So I had like a police officers, like stopping me, and like in my mind, it's like I'm gonna get my phone, I'm gonna film him, and like I'm gonna put it on internet. It's like, oh, like a white officer, pulling over a brown man. I was like going, and then he said like, and he was very nice, so I didn't have my moment of glory.
Foiled your plans.
Yeah, he was very nice, and he said like, well, I let you go because like you were not around here, but. He was extremely nice, and like instead I was like, "Would you like to see my green card? You see proof of residence that I am not an illegal alien." I was trying, dude. This is my birth certificate. Like I'm not trying to, like, please ask me anything.
I was told that there's a story from yesterday. Gary was telling me that Beverly Hills police officers are playing Beatles songs when people film them. So it doesn't.
Oh, they can't put it on the
internet.
Oh, wow.
Genius.
Right.
That is copyright.
What I'm going to do for you right now, sir, is love me do.
Yeah. Although I feel that if you pull over like a young black motorist, Hey Jude would agitate them and essentially elevate the situation.
Blackbird.
Can you? But like, how will this go? It's like, imagine all that people. It's like,
well,
stay down. Imagine all that people.
Yeah, they went with Yesterday.
Oh, they did.
They play Yesterday next to the body cam.
Oh my God! I mean, can you imagine like police brutality on Beatles song? Love me too.
It's got the word "beat" right in it.
Oh my God!
All right. Well, I want to know. We'll find more about that story because I don't know if it's an app that the cops have. I don't know exactly how it works, but
they just played off their phone.
They were.
This is That's a good Garrigus question, because if you take a home video at a restaurant that happens to be playing music in the background, is that and you post it, is that a copyright infringement?
I'll tell you what. Let's take a break, because we have to take a break, and then we'll just come back with Bassem and we'll get into this, because it's an interesting story that we just kind of, pardon the pun, kind of backed into. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll come back with news, and we'll do this at the top of the news.
Give me the news with Grad, news with Gina Grad, breaking, viral, weird crime, protest, politics. Give me news with Gina Grad, stuff they saw on TMZ, Joe Biden, Kamala, beat news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
So, let's figure this story out, because I just got the cliff notes from Gary.
So I'm looking at an Instagram account called Always Film the Police. That's, I guess, telling of where they're coming from. And I don't know, Chris or Caitlin, if you can pull it up, there is a cop. So somebody's filming him, and there's a cop standing there. And like Brian said, he holds his phone next to his body cam, and it's playing Beatles music as he talks to the people who are filming him. So that will end up being some sort of YouTube copyright.
Clever, I guess, but
yeah,
I don't know. I just attended a webinar, a 3-hour webinar on fair use, and this seems like it would fall if someone else is playing it like publicly. It would feel like that's not on you.
I'm just putting. Are we going to have the clip? If not, I can play it into the phone.
I think I don't know. I think it's not that it's a fair use argument. I think there's a filter that may pull it off of whatever it's on.
So really what they're using it for is because people live stream these on Instagram Live. You can live stream to all your followers of what's going on. And when you do it on Instagram, they have an automatic filter, or it's automated. So if they hear anything that's copyrighted, without even looking, they just take it off.
Well, can we use the same argument? You know, when people say like, "Hey, I need my privacy," it's like, "Hey, you have if you don't have anything to be worried about, why are you worried about your privacy?" So we should say it's like, "Hey, if you're worried about like you're doing something illegal with your citizen, why are you streaming those songs?" It is the same kind of argument, right? It's like, "What are you worried about, Mr. Officer?"
I agree. If I was a cop, my problem with being live streamed would be mostly the bad angle. You know, the person sitting in the car, you come up, angle. You got the double chin.
You're all jowl.
You're all jowl. That's a super unflattering angle to be filmed from. My argument would be
waist tight, you got a gut.
Yeah, mine would be more an aesthetic argument than an actual content issue. So the cops, yes, and I would argue that, yes, it does feel like, to use what they have, a sort of admission of guilt that you're playing, that you're loaded up with the best of the Beatles when you walk up to the car. But it's. Can
you imagine the future of this? Now, if you have people in Guantanamo, people in all of these like interrogation sites, the dark sites, and then suddenly they play the kind of famous songs and they can do whatever they want with prisoners. Damn, that will revolutionize the game of torturing people everywhere. That is terrible.
Well, it's funny. We've used music
I was gonna say.
To torture in so many ways, between, Waco and the heavy metal music to drive people out. In parks, they've tried to
Guantanamo.
In Guantanamo, in parks here, they try to roust homeless people with Baby Shark and with all these horrible songs. So we have a rich history of using music as a sort of weapon.
Baby Shark, oh my gosh, like
that'll do it.
Baby Shark did do boom boom. Oh my god,
song's a banger.
And they will like beat people on that beat. That is terrible. Yeah. That is terrible.
All right, I'm sorry, Gina. So your news, not mine.
So. Well, we have another death as of Wednesday morning. Conservative radio personality Rush Limbaugh has died 1 year after announcing his lung cancer diagnosis. Who is 70. Limbaugh had been hosting the Rush Limbaugh Show in syndication for more than 30 years. He was a Republican Party icon, a close ally of former President Donald Trump. He was awarded the Medal of Freedom during the State of the Union address last year. He was diagnosed with lung cancer in January. Last January. January. He shared his cancer diagnosis in February, and in October, he announced that the cancer is terminal.
How crazy is it that he was on Monday Night Football for a year? Wasn't he on? Didn't he join the Monday Night Football?
Yeah.
He
I have
was
no recollection of that.
He, the only thing weirder than Dennis Miller doing it for a season was Rush Limbaugh going into the booth of Monday Night Football. I mean, that just sounds insane, right? 2003.
And he was chastising one of the black quarterback.
Yes.
Saying that like
Donovan McNabb.
He was in the halftime show, right? Like he was like the studio crew, right?
He's saying that he's getting too much credit just because he's black. Oh my God, can you imagine that?
That didn't fly in 2003. It certainly wouldn't work today. He was I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Maybe he
wasn't in the booth.
He wasn't in the booth.
Right.
He was at the desk or whatever it is. It still seems like a wild piece of stunt casting. And Dennis Miller was in the booth. I would say about Rush Limbaugh's death, I would say there's probably not a character who half the country is glad he's gone and the other half mourns his loss more than Rush Limbaugh. You know,
according to Twitter,
when Betty White dies, we'll all just kind of be, she'll be 97, you know. Right. People will go like, it had a good run, you know. I mean, we're not going to split the room with Betty White. You're not going to go to a cocktail party the day after Betty White dies, and half the cocktail party's elated, and the other half is
cheersing,
crestfallen.
Right.
I don't think we're going to have that with
no, that's right.
with Betty.
I mean, he had a segment called AIDS Update where he was like making fun of people dying out of AIDS. So I don't think that he would be missed by so many people on that side. And I the whole thing about like, it's too soon he died. I mean, I kind of like hold back from people that, but like I understand if people would kind of celebrate that, because I mean he was a mean person and he was a terrible person for so many people. And I don't know, like the fact that he's dead. I mean, I personally wouldn't go after him, but like I would understand if people go after him.
I think he just did, but.
You could be mean. That can be your brand. You could be Don Rickles. But like Bassem said, like he was particularly cruel towards people who were sick and dying and dead. And now that there's a lot of like, give the man his peace. He just died of cancer. It's like, well, there's a little reap what you sow going on.
Yeah, I really, I gotta say, I never really listened to Rush Limbaugh at all. I really had nothing. I just whatever I would hear in the news is all I heard of him, except for Monday Night Football, of course. And
so for me, when I first saw Rush Limbaugh in the beginning of 2000, and at that time I didn't know much about American politics. I mean, I have to say that like I was listening to him, and even me not knowing what's going. I mean, I was drawn by the production. I was drawn with the personality. Someone who's from Egypt who doesn't know anything about American politics, I was drawn to the aesthetics of it all. About like him is going. He's a big persona, and it wasn't until I understood some of the politics of America. It's like, oh my God, that guy is a terrible person. It took me some time to understand, but for someone who's not educated, you would be drawn by the show. He's very eloquent. He's a showman. He can go on and on and on and on.
He was successful for a reason.
He was successful. He can draw people. He can make people listen to him.
To be fair to him, McNabb did gas out in the Super Bowl. I mean, he was not a good.
He had his flaws, yeah.
The fourth quarter was not a good quarter for McNabb.
Little primetime player.
So. All right, he'll be missed. What else we got, Gina Grad?
Well, the Jackass family is moving ahead without Bam Margera. The 41-year-old skateboarder and daredevil has been told by producers of the upcoming Jackass 4 movie that he is being dropped from the production due to his problems with addiction and unwillingness to properly address them as per his contract. So according to TMZ, producers allowed Bam to be part of the movie on a number of conditions, including drug tests, regular visits to a psychologist, but he ultimately failed to meet the requirements. So it's going to be a Bamless Jackass.
I feel like, I don't know. First off, he's not a commercial airline pilot.
No.
You know what I mean? Like maybe the bar's too high. He's a guy who's lighting a scrotum sack on fire and then dunking it in, baking powder or something. Like I feel like, first off, most of the stuff they do on Jackass, you should be drunk or high to attempt.
Yes.
That's what Steve-O said.
If you have drug tests, that basically nullifies the whole reason of having him on the show. That kind of like, it's an oxymoron.
This is
we're gonna have you do like stupid stuff, but we will need you to have a drug test. It's like,
yeah, this is like the producers of Bum Fights are now going to be testing for drugs and alcohol, like
breathalyzers.
For Boone's Farm.
This is kind of goes with it. Now maybe they're doing it because they just feel like he's that out of. I mean, he must be that out of control.
Yeah, and Steve-O, when he was on this show, said, there's a palpable difference doing these stunts sober as opposed to doing them loaded, and it's way scarier.
You remember his good friend, like I think he was really close friends with Ryan Dunn, who died drunk driving. I think he killed someone in the car, if I'm not mistaken. But like, I think that was a wake-up call for a lot of those guys. Steve-O got sober eventually, and I wonder if Bam wasn't on board with the wagon train.
Yeah,
it's like Jackass 2.0. Let's do the same crazy shit, but sober.
You also wonder how many options there are for a drunken Bam Margera. You know what I mean? It's not, corporate America is not going to welcome him with open arms. He's not going to get a gig. No headhunters coming for him, wanting him to
day trade.
I mean, there's not a lot of options for that guy. He's getting a little old for the skateboarding.
Add in the fact that his success kind of begat, the YouTubers and a lot of social media. They were the vanguard of that.
Yeah. Well, maybe I outgrew. I get uncomfortable watching that stuff. I feel uncomfortable. So, and it's weird because I'll watch the UFC all day long and be perfectly comfortable, but there's certain things I just feel uncomfortable about.
Dawson, do you remember driving back? I'm almost positive it was a live show in San Diego. We drove back the same night, back in the radio days, and we were in a limo provided by the radio station, and we had Jackass on the TV, and we were all enjoying it, except for Adam, who had a hat over his face. He's like, my teeth hurt. Because there was some horrible, trauma to someone's testicles or something.
Yeah, just having like a snake bite a guy's scrotum sack. As a physician, Bassem, would you recommend?
I want to echo your sentiment earlier. He will not be missed.
As a physician, yeah, it just I don't know. Maybe I've never been accused of having a lot of empathy, but watching people being injured or tortured or harmed, even if it's self-inflicted, even if it's a joke, I don't know. It hurts my teeth.
I know, and it ends up being in the ER, taking the bed of someone else who needs that bed, just because you wanted to do a stunt and film it on YouTube and it's like, hey, look at me, exposing my scrotum being on fire, and then you're gonna end up like being in our care and taking the bed of someone else who need that bed.
I never thought about that, but it's like, what happened to your son? Well, he's 10. He has severe asthma, and we rushed him to the emergency ward. But there was this guy who put rebar up his ass and filmed it,
sorry.
And he just passed away in the waiting room. They didn't have an open bed.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we need that bed now for something.
That's a good point.
That's trivial.
So maybe all these YouTube and TikTok guys, whatever, need to carry a card that say, I waive my right to medical attention, or at least I will go to the back of the line.
Well, I would say this: if you are in the emergency room because you ate too many Tide detergent pods, and my daughter's having a seizure because she has epilepsy, she gets to jump the line.
Sure.
Your self-inflicted shit is fine. I'm not saying we won't get to you, but you get your stomach pumped after my daughter gets stabilized.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way it could work. Yeah.
Fair.
So there is an influx of
Hold on, doctor.
Yes, sir.
When I was a kid, I heard about people getting their stomach pumped 1,000 times. Like, he had to have his stomach pumped.
Yes.
What is that? Is there such a thing?
Well, it's basically you put like a tube like up your nose, and it goes down to your stomach. And, it depends on what you're getting. But, like, we get you like a cocktail of stuff, saline. It kind of like you pump your stomach, and basically this will make you even vomit what you got, especially like if that earlier, or kind of like help you with movement of, your bowel movement. But basically it's kind of like making you kind of.
So we're basically inducing this, but we're not really pumping out your stomach.
Like a bilge
like
pump.
a sump pump. Yeah.
Right.
It is some pump. There's some pump involved because you inflate and then kind of like,
But you're saying
it gets out from that tube too.
You're saying Rod Stewart threw up all that semen. He didn't actually get it sucked out of his stomach because, again, I heard it was pumped, but I was picturing it being drained. You know what I mean?
I don't know which nurse will suck that.
Just answer the question, doctor.
It was pumped, not sucked.
All right, what else we got, Gina?
Oh boy. Well, the Kardashian Jenner clan is expanding into the liquor business. Kendall Jenner announced her own tequila called 818 because she's from Calabasas and we're Valley people here. The model says she's been working on it for a long time. On Instagram, she writes, "For almost 4 years, I've been on a journey to create the best tasting tequila, and I think we've done it."
A journey.
But this is interesting.
By the way, they've successfully poisoned the minds of a generation of young women. Why not work on the liver? I feel like go downstairs, Kardashian. The mind has already been turned to mush.
What's the next
because of your
organ?
long-running show. Now we got to go for the second organ. Yeah,
I blame Ryan Seacrest.
Yes.
For all of it. So how does Kendall go down and, pick agave plants and, mash? No, she does not. Here's what I found in Uprock. So they report that the tequila comes from La Cofradia Distillery in Jalisco. That's according to Tequila Matchmaker. That's a site that compiles where all the tequilas actually come from. The distiller and warehouses make and age dozens and dozens of branded tequilas. It's pretty normal. It's a normal practice in tequila to do contract distilling and aging and then have a blender or simply a distributor just come in with labels and marketing. It's called white labeling, and celebrities do it with weed too. So was she down in Jalisco? Probably not.
But that goes a little bit against what we know about her. I mean, I would think that the tequila comes from the sweat glands of her current NBA boyfriend. because she kind of like she goes through them. I mean, I think she went through like both conferences. I think she's like both like the West and the East conferences. I mean, she's all-star Jen.
So they just collect the washcloths and rags and
Ring 'em
sweat
out.
rags.
Yeah.
I think
Press them.
the only one she skipped was Jeremy Lin.
Well, he's in the because he's in the G League right now. He's in the G League right now.
Oh, okay.
I think. Yeah, I think once you get promoted again to the NBA, I think she got a shot of tequila.
Is this so? This is Kim. Sorry,
This Kendall,
oh, Kendall.
the model.
Yeah.
Isn't celebrity tequila kind of passé by now? Like, aren't we 10 years past that wave?
All you have to do is hear about what Clooney made or what
Casamigos.
and
Got
then
a
there's
bottle right behind me.
there's also God, what's his name? Not Ryan Seacrest.
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds with this gin.
The gin.
You know, and it's like
and he sold it for a fortune.
Right. And how
We
much
got a
money
Dan
these
Dunn
guys
segment coming up on celebrity liquors.
That's right. We're having it delivered. And by the way, what I don't know about tequila could fill Fort Knox, but I did watch a little bit of an Instagram story of Kendall doing a taste test. And I don't know. I'm far from a professional, but I feel like she needs to weigh in a little more than this. She has two. She tastes one. She's like, they're strong. And then tastes another. This one is more strong.
Yeah.
So this one? And that
Her refined palate.
That's your contribution. Okay.
That's a very, very intellectual test.
That's
yeah.
right.
It's like
Adam, this is good news for you, though,
strong.
because with the name, you got your A18 rye coming out.
Yeah.
This could be a little bit of a ride that wave.
We
I
could
should
bundle it.
sue their ass.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me hit. If you drink too much, how about a little liquid IV? That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Stuff is good. Put it in your bottle, shake it up. Good for traveling. Comes in little packets. Like I said, I do not leave town without it. They have the Energy Multiplier. That's a game changer. One stick is like 2 cups of coffee. All natural alternative to the processed energy drinks. Yes, stay away from those. You get a little tired during the day. People have that lull mid-afternoon thing. Half of Americans struggle with daily fatigue, lack of motivation, poor mood, decreased focus. How about you pop in a little liquid IV energy multiplier? The lemon lime's my favorite. Clean ingredients, non-GMO. Well, there you go. Vegan, gluten, dairy, and soy-free as well. Extremely convenient packet. Like I said, Bring it with you. It's liquid IV, right, Dawson?
Grab your energy liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco, or you can get 25% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code ADAM at checkout. That's 25% off anything you order when you use promo code ADAM at liquidiv.com. Start fueling your adventures today at liquidiv.com. Promo code ADAM.
Who's that voice?
That's the great
Dawson.
Mike Dawson. Don't you feel like, I don't know, I don't want to be a douche, but does there need to be some tragedy in the life of the Kardashians? Like, no one's been
Other than their dad dying?
Well, that's been a while. It's been a
They're
while.
over it.
It's been a while. I mean, they got a lot of kids going in a lot of different directions. You didn't hear about a car crash or a helicopter crash or any weird stuff. I'm not willing it. I'm just saying.
Well, there's a little mental illness.
Yeah. Bruce killed a guy.
Oh,
that's
it's
right.
true.
Someone.
Caitlyn killed him.
Caitlyn actually technically killed him.
No,
That's right.
I think Bruce did.
A guy wouldn't have driven
Wouldn't
that
have done
poorly,
that.
Gina.
I gotta check the date.
That's
I
the
gotta check the
ladies.
date.
But like I mean, isn't Kim divorcing Kanye?
She is. He's having a lot of struggles with mental illness.
I don't know if that's a tragedy or a blessing.
But they're both going to walk with $1 billion. Like I don't.
But these people will walk with $1 billion anyway.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
I think just like, the classes has already said we are already in a caste system and we're on the lower caste and they're high. They will always make money.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna watch. Well, we're gonna watch from afar, feeling bad about ourselves.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think Caitlyn got into the crash.
No,
Bruce.
I'm looking at it here. May 1st, my birthday, 2015. It says.
Oh, come on.
It says
2015?
former Olympic decathlon champion and reality star Bruce Jenner was involved in a fatal 4-car accident on Saturday.
Wow. Well, you
Guys,
were right, Gina Graham.
you are terrible people. Come on. I mean, you're terrible.
I'm just giving the news.
Come on, Gina.
Come on, Gina.
It's not funny.
Adam
Boss,
is
my
internally
apologies.
celebrating this. Adam is internally okay. Here we got that.
Boss, I apologize on
look at
Gina's
it.
behalf.
Yeah, I really am. I need to be canceled immediately. I'm problematic. Let's move on to something that architecturally is interesting. And this is these pop up on a lot of Airbnbs, so I can attest to at least seeing many of them. But Merriam Anderson Architects has designed some of Dallas's largest historic buildings, restoration, and now they have a new project. It's an apartment complex made completely out of shipping containers. And we have a picture for you. This is in Southeast Dallas. They look kind of cool. So let me give you a little bit of the nuts and bolts about how this works. Construction's set to start early this year, so soon. 1-bedroom affordable housing units. There'll be 19 of them made out of repurposed 300 square foot shipping containers. The compact rental units have a living area located in front of a kitchen, a bathroom, and a single bedroom. And we're looking at a sliced up side view here. The apartment units will be rented starting at about $900 a month. It'll include utilities. They're restricted to residents earning 60% or less of the area median income. They plan to use the project as a prototype for larger affordable housing communities with 100 to 130 units to be built all over Dallas. So this is the prototype.
My sister has a shipping container house.
Really?
Yeah.
These are very popular on Airbnb. Like, they're very cool.
Yeah, but let's talk about insulation.
No,
How
boy.
hot
I hopped
these-
up it's retrofitted.
No, seriously. I mean, because you're talking about Texas, and in the summer this could be brutal. Like how
They have to have a
good is the-
How about
ventilation
now?
system.
The insulation, the ventilation, like whatever. Like I mean, these are like tin boxes at the end of the day. These are like metal boxes.
Yeah.
So
But
And
you
also,
happens with
sister has one?
insulation.
A lot of them come with Chinese women stowing away, and I hear you have to live with them as well. I don't know all the codes.
The loophole in the law.
Hey, Bassem, remember when you thought I was the bad guy?
They're grandfathered in. Squatters' rights. No, here's the thing about the shipping container. It's kind of weird. I get it in like certain applications, but it is a big steel box and it's heavy. And so it's like, I'm going to build a house with shipping containers. Like, it sounds cool and modular and very on the vanguard. But if you think about it, it's like, well, what do? Well, you get the shipping container, and then you have to get an acetylene cutting rig and like literally cut out, panels of it to put windows or skylights, like the end of the original Poseidon Adventure when they're cutting through the hull of the ship.
Right.
And then you have to get a bunch of rigid insulation, and then of course you have to bring it in on a flatbed. And at the end of the day, I don't know if it's a time saver or a money saver. Like, the thing's heavy as shit. You got to work with metal. I mean, you got to work with thick gauge metal. Like, you can't just take a handsaw and whack out a sliding glass door. You're going to have to get some serious cutting instrument in there. And you have to, again, it's like you have to build the foundation. It's not like you just set it on the ground. You still have to do like a formal foundation, raised foundation, and put it on the foundation. It ends up being a conversation piece, but I don't know if it's a real practical. And yes, the side of that thing during the summer would be hot. You would burn your hand like the hood of a car parked in a Costco in the middle of Canoga Park in July if you touch that thing. So there's got to be tons of like rigid insulation that you put on it, and it just feels like more work than actual practical.
I think it's a stunt, and it's been used in commercial use a long time ago. If you go to Dubai, they have like a whole kind of mall made out of containers.
Really?
Yeah, it's called the Walk, and they're all like next to the Walk. They all like use that. And I think the amount of money that went into repurpose them is actually a lot of money. I think it was just like the aesthetics.
Right.
I didn't think that they save any money. Dubai doesn't need to save any money.
Right.
So it is. I think it's just like as Adam said, it's a conversation piece.
I could see though, if you're doing single 330 square foot units and you want to just stack them all next to each other and each one is a separate unit and wouldn't take that much modification, that's one thing. But if you're trying to do a 3,000 square foot house by piling 9 of these things together, it's just a fucking shit show.
And remember, they said this one's 19 units and they want ones that are 100 to 130 units. So this is just like a giant rectangle in the sky.
And also, you don't need a house that can withstand a meteor hit, like a direct hit. It could just be a nearby hit and you'd be fine, But do you think they could do it cheaper than in LA when it's $800,000 per unit building housing for the homeless? Well, no, and I'll tell you why LA wouldn't work that way, because they would have to do an environmental impact report on, because the thing was painted in the 70s and there may be some traces of lead in the paint, so we're going to have to sign off on that. It's all regulation. It's not the actual cost of the 2x4 or even the guys who put the 2x4s together. It's all we have to do, all the impact things, the hoops and stuff, all the stuff you have to jump through in California. That's the thing that makes everything cost prohibitive. It's not the actual cost of construction. And so all that same shit would probably apply to this as well.
That makes, well,
I'm just confident we would fuck it up. That's basically what I'm saying.
However, you're talking about regulation. They say that I just read that. I said that the whole thing about what's happening in Houston right now with all of the winter storm and why they're have a power crisis is that their power companies chose not to regulate. The power grid in Texas is different because it's totally unregulated. They don't really follow the federal code, and they have the option to either winterize or not winterize their thing. So they because they don't have regulation, so they didn't winterize their power supply, and that's why the whole grid just like went into flames.
Right, but we have tons of regulation in California, and our power grid blows ass too. So
yeah, when we have a fire, that is true.
Yeah. All
Or
right.
if it's just really hot.
My argument isn't no regulation. It's just do it sensibly so they can make this stuff in a semi-cost, responsible but cost-effective way. Don't over-regulate.
I agree.
All right. What do we got, Gina?
Well, speaking of snow and craziness, people are desperate. In fact, in Kansas, my mom told me they had a power outage for a couple hours yesterday. And I wasn't super thrilled to think about my mom, who's of a certain age, sitting in the house freezing her ass off, or anyone for that matter. But maybe we got to be more like this guy in the Ukrainian. So he staged a bogus murder because he didn't feel like the shoveling of the snow from around his family's house was adequate after his blizzard. So they didn't release his name. He called an emergency number after a big storm and told the dispatcher that he wanted to confess to killing his mother's boyfriend. He said he was willing to surrender, but cops would have to shovel out an impassable road in order to reach him.
What?
Officers hopped in their all-terrain vehicle, headed to the address in question, but found no sign of anyone being murdered. The caller admitted he faked the whole scene in order to get someone to clear the area around his home. He was charged with filing a false report and fined $5.
Small price to pay.
Yeah, literally.
Wow.
And Ukraine, snowstorm, this feels like some day drinking was going on.
Yeah.
Come on.
This was concocted.
How do you know?
This is definitely some drunk dialing. I mean, imagine the COVID has been a good enough reason to do the day drinking. This socked in, going nowhere.
You have no choice.
You really must drink. All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Last but not least, 15 seconds for Simply Safe. Everyone wants to keep their homes safe from break-ins, flood, fire, medical emergencies. Simply Safe Home Security, award-winning 24/7 protection. No long-term contracts, no hidden fees or installation costs. And get a free security camera when you purchase Simply Safe at simplysafe.com/Adam. The book, it is called The Magical Reality of Nadia. It's available now on Amazon. Live dates, you're coming up at Magooby's Joke House. That's February 25th through the 27th. Where is that?
That is in Maryland.
Oh, in Maryland.
Yeah, that is Maryland, yeah.
I'm trying to think of the name of this town. I can't.
Yeah, it's Timonium.
It's a crazy name.
Yes.
And also coming up in Ohio at the Funny Stop, March 11th and 13th. And shoot Bassem a tweet at B Youseff. That is YOUSSEF. Bassem, thank you as per usual.
Thank you so much for having me.
Always a
Amazing.
delight. And until next time, it's Dan Carolla for Gina Grad, Carolla, Brian, and Bassem Youssef saying mahalo.